Hi, my name is Florence Nichols and welcome to the Media Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to Luke Youngman, who works at Framestore. He's going to be talking about how he's got his job role and he's going to be giving advice to anyone else who wants to get into media. And now, over to Luke Youngman. Can you describe what you do? What would you say your job is?
So my job title is executive producer.
Yeah.
And so I both oversee projects, but from a slightly higher level, although I do get my hands dirty into doing day-to-day production, my job really is to oversee how they're being produced and troubleshoot. But I would also help bring in new business, speaking with film producers and TV executives, but also agencies and clients to bring in branded content.
And how did you get to that role?
Okay, how long have you got? So, working sort of back, I have been a producer for probably around 15, 20 years now, thereabouts. Before I've been at Framestore for just over a year. Before that, I was at a company called Nexus Studios, and I was there for 17 years. I started as a manager, went my way up, and then I was head of production for 4 or 5 years. And then before that, I was at Aardman for 5 years down in Bristol, where I was a production assistant and then worked my way up to line producer. And then before that, my first real proper job in the industry was I was a runner on a stop frame animated half-hour film called Robbie the Reindeer. But that was great because I hadn't really, although I knew I wanted to work in film and TV, I hadn't really considered animation as a thing. But being a runner on that production, although it was mainly crew from Aardman, it was a separate BBC production, so we had to set up a studio in Bristol, and they built the studio, so I was involved in that, and then because it's quite a small, self-contained shoot. Over a period of 9 months, I was involved in the model making and in the department and the lighting department and production. So, as well as driving a van around Bristol picking up stuff, I was able to learn the whole how it all worked, which was magic.
Yeah, so that kind of answered my next question, which is going to be did you always want to work in media?
Yes and no. The BA and my masters are in philosophy,
Yeah.
so which isn't media related per se. But I was very interested in both writing and in cinema. And when I was at university, I helped to run the Film Society, which was not making films, but showing films. And the beauty of that was twice a week, and for each 10-week term, we would show a film. I went to Sussex University, and at that time they had a 35mm projector in one of the lecture halls. So we would pick which films you wanted to watch, sort of classics right through, and occasionally we'd get a blockbuster, so we'd pay for the year by getting those people in, and we'd just watch what films you wanted to watch.
Yeah. So, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
Well, that's a good question. I think that won't sound too big-headed. There's a certain amount of perseverance that is required. You do have to knock on a lot of doors, but once you're in and you're good, then you can, one thing can lead to another. I think it's about being interested and into new and finding out how to do stuff and finding out and asking people how to do that, and then being willing to help people with other projects and understanding how they want to do it correctly. So the biggest challenge, I guess, was first of all doing it. I think now it's about making a film of any type, whether it's a 30-second commercial, a 3-minute music, or a 1.5 hour feature film. It's about getting the right people, the right creative, so it can fit into the budget and the time, and making sure the people who are using are servicing the narrative and the creative aims of the project. So the challenge is with this story, with this message, whatever it is, and it's working out from the get go what is going to get you to that thing.
Yeah. And what sort of skills that you've developed do you think are the most helpful for what you do?
Oh, that's a good question. Patience. Though at the same time, I think patience in knowing that okay, it's going to take this amount of time, especially working in animation where things take longer than they do in real life. Understanding people and understanding their ideas and understanding or knowing how to draw out what is actually required. Good humour is very important, especially when you're in the film industry, and media generally is a very collaborative arena and environment. So the ability to get on with people is fundamental. And then inquisitiveness and knowing, and wanting to know how things work and wanting to know how you're going to do it. And yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think if someone was gonna go into the job? What sort of things do you think they should think about beforehand?
Oh, I think now that I've reached a certain point in my career, I quite often am interviewing candidates for positions, junior positions, and for more senior positions. For the sort of more junior positions, like runner or coordinator or assistant, obviously an interest in film and media is kind of necessary, but not totally. Experience within it is not necessary. Again, I think I'm much more interested in meeting someone or interviewing someone for a position that's about what are they interested in? What's their drive? What have they done that makes me think, oh, they'd be great at doing this thing? If they tell me they're interested in taking bicycles apart and then putting them back together again, there's lots of skills within the industry, but that kind of brain is really, really useful. Okay, so you can explode it in your head and then put it back. And that's what we do every day in terms of making production. So I'm looking for that kind of inquisitiveness and intelligence for going, okay, I understand the situation, rather than, oh, I've already made 15 music videos, which is great. I would definitely look if you have, but there's a certain self drive that I think is possibly more important than experience at that point.
Yeah. What thing do you think that you've made or done are you most proud of?
Oh, getting to where I am today. On one side, there's certain projects that may not look, that it might be a commercial, it might be, a small sequence that people will sort of blink and miss it, but the production of which really hard to wrangle, or the client was pretty tough, or the creative was difficult, the budget was low, and it's those type of projects. And when they become successful without any major disasters, that we go, right, I was proud of that because I made it happen and nobody died, and everybody was happy with the end result. On the other side, they're the projects where the award winners, or they're preferred in using the technique that was used before, or working with the director, working with a new director who produces a piece of work, or that they're and increase and sort of makes their career blossom and bloom. And there are, I think, so for me personally, that first one I worked on, Robbie the Reindeer, I was very proud of that. This is my first piece. And equally, having been at Framestore for a year, the 1899 club sequence I'm proud of, because it was quite a tricky gig, and I had with a team of people I hadn't worked with before. But in the end, we got to a position where we were proud of what we'd done. The director, the series was liked what we did, and now it's out there in the world, and my name is in titles, or in the credits at the end, which was always a lovely thing. We go, oh, that's me, I made that.
Yeah, cool, thank you. So, like you say, you're just proud of everything.
Yes, and yeah, it's as bad as everything. There's some things I'd rather forget. I think there are certain moments where industry or endeavour where you realise you could have made a decision better, or there were some decisions you should have made. But as long as you learn from those, don't beat yourself up about it too much, and hopefully other people don't beat you up about it. I think the environments that I've been lucky enough to work in have always been very generous in that respect. And so when I know that I've mucked up, I can realise it, and someone else has been said, okay, shouldn't have done that. If you'd done it this way, it might not have happened. So there are some moments where I haven't been particularly proud of myself, but it hasn't been, again and doing it better. And I think that kind of perseverance is important.
Yeah. What do working hours look like for you?
Oh, it varies. Obviously, now that I've reached this stage of my career as an exec, it's relatively, quote unquote, 9 to 5. And especially working in animation and visual effects, where it is now mostly studio or sort of desk focused. Although, we do attend shoots. I think, when you're an assistant or starting out, then not so much now. I think we've realised that it's slightly exploitative, but the hours can be punishing, and especially if you're doing live action, the runner or the assistants have to be on set at 6 a.m. and they don't leave till midnight. Sometimes on a shoot, that can be on set for days or weeks on end. That can be hard work. But they're always working with a bunch of amazing creative people who will help them your way later on. So it does depend what you go into, what area you go into, and what division, whether that's camera or production or art department, and then there's obviously all post-production, which is, music and sound, and there's another area where, this type of work can lead you, and that's where the areas will be different again, unless you're on set doing sound. If you're doing sound and music as a post-production, then, your hours will be usually 9 to 5-ish, depending on.
So I think we might be running out of time, but for what final advice would you give to someone who was looking to be in the
Oh, again, with myself, it's be interested and have a go. There are various forums. There's one called shootingpeople.org, I think, and there's a website called mandy.com where you can always advertise for low on low budget production assistance, make your own films, learn from the films that you've made, show them people, take the criticism because there will be criticism. They're not going to be, Scorsese or Spielberg. If they are, fucking amazing. Keep on doing that. Watch as many films and adverts and music videos and as you can. I mean, because that's how you learn how people have approached narrative, have approached the techniques and where to put cameras and what effect lighting has, what effect art department has. Read read the books written by directors about directors and about filmmaking and how it is. As I say, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to do a media degree or a film degree to keep on doing it. And then once you've got to the point, you want to work in it, use your contacts, knock on the doors, keep on making stuff, and eventually it will happen. I think that perseverance and interest get you there.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
My pleasure.
I think yeah, that's it.